Hello!
Hello AOS fans!
It's the Agents of Embergard.
And in this video we're going to tell you about the Grymwatch.
A classic undead warband filled with loads of ghouls.
Now, this warband is one I've come to love over the history of Warhammer Underworlds. Of course we don't really care about that now, we want to know what they're going to be like in Embergard, but I was thrilled to see them back. The Grymwatch are a 7-fighter take-and-hold warband.
They're all about swarming across the board, grabbing objectives and stopping your opponent getting back on them.
Yeah, how good they'll be at that, I'm not sure. They only have one dodge, most of them, between them when they start, but there are some nifty ways to inspire them. So they have a number of slightly quirky rules on their war scroll, which are different to a lot of the way other warbands work. So we'll quickly run through those. The first thing is that Crackmarrow has an ability called In the Name of the King. So he's the leader. You can only use it while he's on the board. So you're going to be wanting to protect him. His ability, once per battle round, pick a friendly fighter and inspire that fighter.
Nice.
I might suggest maybe that would be himself in the first round. Or pick a slain friendly fighter, raise them and place them in an empty edge hex. An empty edge hex.
So they can go anywhere around the board.
Anywhere around the board, which is pretty strong, and it's any of the fighters. For those of you who remember in the old days, which you don't really like talking about the old days, but it was only the weaker fighters.
The
but
three
now,
weakest.
The stronger fighters can come back too. Those raised fighters don't come back vulnerable either.
But they do have a raised token, which means they give you no more glory if you kill them again.
So you can pick either one of those once per battle round. If you're the underdog, you can do both. So they have 3 abilities on their War Scroll card, and they're used in a very specific way, which is at the beginning of the battle round, you have to pick which one you're going to use that round.
Right.
And you can only use it once, and once you've used it, you can't pick it in a future round. But if you haven't used it, you can pick it in a future round. But I think you're probably going to want to try and use them once you've picked it, otherwise it's a bit of a waste, really.
Yeah.
And the one I think you'll definitely want to use in the first round is actually the last one on the card. It's called To the Walls, and you basically enables you to use In the Name of the King ability twice in that battle round instead of once. So I almost feel like you use that in the very first round of the game.
So if you use that in the first round and your opponent scores a glory early on and you become the underdog, you could effectively inspire 2 fighters and bring 2 fighters back.
Yeah, if they got that glory from killing one of your fighters, you could inspire 2 of them and then raise the one that they just killed.
That's just brutal.
They also have Defenders of the Realm. Each time you make a save roll for a friendly fighter in friendly territory, you can re-roll 1 dice in that roll, which is pretty good. Pretty good.
That's always nice.
Yeah, and the Royal Hunt. Friendly fighters' melee weapons have +1 attack dice if the target of the attack is damaged. So if you can get some ping damage in there, that might help you get extra dice. Gristlewell rolls 3 dice, 3 damage, so yeah, up to 4 dice when he's inspired would be pretty brutal. We've talked about how you can pick fighters to inspire. You might be thinking you can only inspire 1 or maybe 2 per round. There are other ways to inspire your fighters.
Oh, how's that work?
Now this is quite complicated, so I'm going to go through it, and Pete, you can tell me whether you understood it. After the last action step in a battle round, pick up to X friendly fighters. So pick a number of friendly fighters where the X, that number, is the combined bounty characteristics of slain enemy fighters and enemy fighters in enemy and neutral territory.
Okay.
And inspire those friendly fighters.
I see. So basically, if I've got my warband and they're worth 7 glory generally, one of them's in your half and he's worth 3 glory, then I effectively get 4 of inspiration on that warband, because the other 4 glory is either in my half, in neutral territory, or dead.
Yes, that's right. I feel like the warbands you don't mind not inspiring for, horde warbands, you will inspire really easily, because it can be very hard to get more than 3 or 4 fighters out of your territory or into your territory. The elite warbands, if you're playing Morgoth's Crushers, they're basically going to pile in, so you're going to be relying on Crackmarrow's ability to inspire some fighters there. Except, of course, you can then run around the back of them. They'll have to come back into your territory to kill you. So perhaps it'll work out all right. So there's a couple of interesting ways to inspire them. I quite like that. The
stats of all the fighters are pretty basic throughout. They all have 1 bounty on them, even the big lad.
Yeah, and there's very little range, which is a weakness of the warband. You basically have a 2-hammer, 1 damage attack on Crackmarrow as a range 2, and that's all there is.
They all move 4, so they're not the slowest warband out there, but most of them are rolling either 1 shield or 1 dodge.
When Crackmarrow inspires, he gets an all-important extra dice in his defence, basically gets an extra damage on his range 2 attack, and he completely loses his range 1 attack. So he basically becomes range 2, 2 hammers, 2 damage.
When Gristlewind inspires, he goes from 1 shield to 2 dodge, so he gets a little bit more survivable and increases his chances of rolling crits. Uninspired, he's 2 swords and 3 damage, and inspired, he's 3 swords and 3 damage, so he gets a little bit more accurate, but nothing spectacular.
But 3 damage is very good. There aren't that many 3 damage fighters.
That is true. You give him a Grievous upgrade, and he could be quite terrifying.
100%, especially if you can manage to combine him with, say, the Royal Hunt, where he gets +1 attack dice. Valreek, the beauty of the troop. She starts on 2 swords, 2 damage, which isn't brilliant, but on inspiration she does go up to 2 dodge from 1 dodge, and she gains an extra sword, still only 2 damage.
The 3 lesser ghouls, the Knight's Herald, the Master Talon, and the Royal Butchers, they're all 1 dodge, 2 swords, 1 damage, so there's nothing spectacular about any of them.
No. Butcher does inspire to 4 swords with cleave, but it's still only 1 damage.
He does get 2 dodge as well.
Yeah, they all go to 2 dodge actually. Master Talon, he gets 3 swords and 1 damage, and the Knight's Herald, he gets 3 swords and 1 damage too. So they're not brilliant.
The Royal Butcher's definitely the one that you want to inspire more out of those 3, I think. And then you've got the Duke's Harrows with their 1 dodge and their 3 swords, 1 damage attack.
They can fly, of course, because they're bats.
Not that there's many places for them to have to fly over these days, but it's helpful to get over a crowd sometimes.
Their attack is basically the same, but it does gain ensnare.
They also go to 2 dodge when they're inspired to make them a little bit more survivable.
And as I mentioned earlier, they go up to 5 move.
So that is the Grymwatch Warband. They're not going to set the world alight with their individual stats, but their strength comes from numbers and constantly coming back onto the board.
Gristlewind smacking people in the chops with his giant leg bone.
As stated at the start, they are a take and hold warband, so they're all about jumping on those treasure tokens and trying to hold on to them by just pouring more and more bodies into the grinder.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing how they play on the table. Are you looking forward to it? Let us know in the comments below.
And don't forget to click that like button.
And click that subscribe button.
And don't forget to ring that bell so you'll get notifications about all the new Warband videos that we release and everything else regarding Embergard.
Until next time, we'll see you soon.
Maybe in the Embergard.